All right, welcome to another episode of Unsavory Fellow. My name is Nick James, and I'm super thrilled to have my good friend, guest that was number one on my list when I started this podcast,
Aw.
Courtney Thorne Smith.
Hi.
Thanks for coming. This
So
is so
excited
great.
to be here.
Oh man, you really were not my number one, and it was funny because like I said, I had 10 guests, I think. And then you were number one, right? Because I've heard you talk and we've gotten to know each other a little bit, and you were so funny. And I thought of all the female guests, if I could get, it would be you. And I was saying to these guys, I would see you and stuff, and then I'd want to ask you, and then somebody would walk up. I'd go, no, don't do it, not here. Don't ask. Don't be inappropriate, And then I'd walk up and ask, and every time I'd come home, my wife would go, well, did you ask her? And I didn't have an answer. She goes, you pussed out, didn't you? You pussed out again. That's right, and that's how she is. And I was so thrilled that you're here,
Oh, thank you. I'm excited to be here. It's fun. Because
Yeah,
you're right.
right.
We're sort of we pass each other in and out. We get 5 minutes to talk. So now we are forced to talk
Yes.
for however long this is. 5-6 hours, however long this is.
Well, it's funny, too, and you're trying to get to know somebody, and this is a great way to get to know somebody.
True.
And I always, even with planning this, how I think it's going to go, like I started, I plan it out, how I think it's going to, and then I start looking at your resume, and I had no idea. It's nuts. I mean, it's like, I was telling these guys, you started working, right, at
17.
17, which was
Yeah.
what, Fast Times or before?
Lucas was my first thing.
Lucas, we were just talking about that.
Yeah.
And then you've nonstop worked, right?
Until I stopped. But yeah, for a long time. Until it came to a screeching halt. I worked for a long time.
What do you mean,
it was
a
crazy.
screeching halt?
It didn't come to a screeching halt, but it is different. But yeah, for a long time, I just assumed that you would get a series and then get another series.
But you did, right? Forever.
That was my experience. I didn't realize how strange that experience was until it stopped. And I was like,
Wow.
oh, this is what it actually feels like. Yeah, it was, I just sort of assumed
Right.
series to series. Where's the next series?
Yeah, because I was looking at it, and I've seen you forever, right?
Yeah.
And I was looking at that going, how young? And then before that, the years leading up to that, for you to land these roles that you did right out of the gate, not only did you have to be very good, you had to put the time and the work in, right? Studying or no? As an actor.
Yeah, I was thinking about this because I did a podcast, a Melrose Place rewatch podcast.
Okay.
And so we're watching from the first episode, and it's brutal. The women I was doing it with were saying, you shouldn't be so hard on yourself. And I'm like, wait till you're on, because they both started later. I was like, you just wait till you're looking at yourself at 24.
Wow.
And see how, and I was so self-conscious, and I was just
Yeah.
find some rhythm. Like if I was mad in a scene, I was just mad. There was no layers to anything, because also I was 24, right?
Yeah.
I think at 24, you kind of have one feeling at a time, unless you're one of those. But I would go to a method acting class at night.
Oh, you did?
So I remember one time I was at my class, and they were shooting on, my class was on Melrose, and I came out and the crew was shooting. I was like, hi, I'm in class.
Wow.
I'm sure they were thinking, good, you really should be. But they were very polite about it. So yeah, I got better because of experience, but also it was that thing of, you've done enough work to know that there's a part of your brain, if you're in the moment and paying attention, that's like, I don't know what I'm doing. It should be scary, right?
Right.
So I studied in high school with this amazing guy, Dan Caldwell, and I got cast in this freak thing that I'll tell you about if you're interested.
Oh, yeah.
And I went to do Lucas, and I'm 17 years old, right? I'm still the end of my senior year, and I went to, and I wrote, we're writing letters then. Like there's no email, right? I'm writing letters like the 1800s. I wrote him a letter, and I said, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm so scared. And he said he was so brilliant. He said, well, you fooled him in the audition. Keep fooling him.
Right.
Like he didn't feed into it. He's just like, well, you fooled him.
Yeah.
Keep fooling him. But that feeling of fooling them was and is so hard. And I think everybody who's really creative always has that feeling.
Yeah.
Right? Because hopefully you're always pushing the envelope, and you don't know.
No, you don't.
I never know if I can do whatever I've signed up to do. You hope.
Yeah. And then especially in the beginning, right? Because I think it's wild. I was thinking about it too this morning on my walk, and I was thinking like, you know, growing up here, everybody is so like close to Hollywood. And especially everybody here is like an actor. Everybody comes out here. If you work in the restaurant business, you're an actor. I was a bartender forever, right? Mm-hmm. And I remember for me, that's kind of how I got into acting. I heard this gal who was a waitress that I worked with, somebody asked her, they go, what do you got to be doing something other than this, just waiting tables. And she goes, yeah. She goes, I'm an actor. And I knew the question was going to come to me, and I wasn't an actor. And they asked, and I go, oh, I'm an actor. And that's kind of how.
That was your first acting job.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
But I didn't have, and I think like, I always say that everybody's Hollywood experience is different. And yours to be like, you're a kid, and you're all of a sudden, you're working. This is your job, you know, and it happens like that. And then you're on this train. I mean, and you had massive success, right? I mean, it was just fucking nuts when I look at it, because there's all the things I know you from, of course, Melrose Place, which was huge, according to Jim. And then there's all the in-between that stuff that just went on and on and on till like almost the present day. Yeah. I mean, what was that like as a kid? Because also, when I was bringing up the work, right? When you're young and you're trying to get into class and you're going to theater and all this stuff, you're still a kid, right? And all of a sudden at 17, you are now part of the workforce. And this is your life now. Like, did you feel like you missed out on any, you know, looking back, did you miss out on any experiences as a kid or anything like that?
Well, I missed out on college, right? So I felt like I missed that experience. So I'll tell you the casting story really quick. So I was working this theater company. I moved in. My mom lived in Mill Valley, and I moved in with her to be a part of this. It was called the Ensemble Theater Company, started by Dan Caldwell, who was this extraordinary teacher. Like, I never had a better teacher than him anywhere in my entire time taking classes. And he started this theater company, and we were self-supporting. It was part of the school, but we did our own fundraising, and we really had this theater company where we would write and create projects and act, and it was just like, I didn't understand it then, but looking back, I see how extraordinary it was. And 20th Century Fox was looking for new faces, which feels like something out of the 20s, right? Like they were looking for like the 1920s. They were like looking for new faces, and we did our car wash to raise money for the theater company, and then we all drove in a car down to the basement of a church in San Francisco and auditioned for this movie, Lucas, and this man, David Seltzer, who'd written it and wanted new faces. And then I got a call later that myself and one other young woman had gotten a screen test, and they flew me down to Los Angeles onto the Fox lot, like hair and makeup, a screen test. Like it felt like moving back in time. Yes. And I auditioned with Charlie Sheen. I remember Laura Dern was there, and someone who was on Archie's Place, which has been up Archie Bunker. She wasn't very nice to me. I remember that.
Wait, and then you go in and you see all these actors that you know when you've flown in, right?
Some, but they kept us sort of separate, and then we would go in and do the scene. And then on the way out, I bought a towel at the gift shop because I thought, well, this was a fun fluke adventure. Like I thought that was it, and I was going to go home and start packing for college. Right, I was going to go to Allegheny College in Pennsylvania, and then as literally I'm packing for college, and I get the call, like, wow, you have this job. Or I couldn't have been actually, right? Because it was May. So maybe I was organizing my room, and I get this call, and I got the job. And I was going to go to Chicago for 3 months. And it was just crazy. It was crazy.
Yeah, what was that like? I mean, so you had to make the decision, college or this?
Well, first I was doing this, and then I was going to come back and go to college. So first I did Lucas, and I was a California kid, so we were protected by California law. So my mom was there, and I had this amazing studio teacher who protected me. Wow. And there were a lot of like local kids in Chicago, and then you had Charlie Sheen, and he was crazy, and he was partying, and I kind of stayed in my room. And
I went to high school with Charlie.
You did in Malibu?
No, Samo High.
Oh, Samo High.
Yeah.
Oh,
he was from Malibu, but.
Oh.
Yeah.
Maybe got booted out and had to go to Samo High. You never know. He was already pretty wild. Like he was already pretty wild. Yeah. And And then I came home and I was packing, and that's when they said, you want to audition for a couple other things? And then I got another thing. And then I thought I'll put off college for a year and a year and a year. And then I just didn't do it. So that's, in terms of what I missed, I think that's the only thing I missed, which is that college experience. Like, you know, my son will say, what's the value of college? And I said, well, it's an experience you only get there.
Yeah.
So I have had a great life. I love the experiences I've had. I may not have had the career I'd had if I'd started 4 years later. Like, maybe it was being the actual age at that time, because.
What do you mean by the career you would have had?
Well, because, you know, a lot of people who are auditioning to play 16, 17, 18 are in their 20s. So I was 17.
Right.
So, you know, there was some value in that, and I had all that experience. So by the time people my age were graduating from art school, I think they felt more confident, but they were 4 years older and I had that much experience under my belt. So there's no way to know, right? You pull a thread and you say, well, how do I know? Because I would have had such a different life, and I love the life I've had. But you said, what did I miss? The only thing I can think that I missed was college.
Right. And then, but now you're like a full-on, here's another, when did the fame hit you where you go, holy shit, my life just is changed? Because people talk about that. The first time they're recognized, and all of a sudden, you know, I remember reading Matthew Perry, his book before he died, right? And he talks about when the show was picked up, that his life was forever changed. He went down on the 3rd Street Promenade, and that was it. It was never going to be the same again, and he knew that. Was there a point like that with you where you felt that? Or
I was never like that kind of famous.
Right.
I think like the Friends cast were and are so famous, and it plays on repeat, and it sort of never ends, right? Like, I always have felt sort of protected. I mean, Melrose Place, Alley, that was kind of the time when it was the most intense, but I had a group of friends I'd met before.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a really solid group of friends. You know most of them. Piper, who's a dear friend of both of ours. I had that group of friends, so I felt protected. Like, they would literally protect me. And, you know, I had places to go where I felt grounded. And it was so different. Like, when I was on Melrose Place, I did Andrew Shue, who was my co-star on Melrose Place. So it was like crazy, right? So all this attention. We could put on baseball caps and go to a movie at Universal.
Right.
There wasn't social media. There wasn't the constant attention.
Right.
There wasn't the sense that people had a piece of you. Like, when I was coming of age, you kept your private life private. You kept something private. So there was this sort of separation, right? So people didn't think, oh, I see you every day on my phone. You're on Instagram. I know your life. You know, it wasn't quite so.
Right.
There was a line. People were really polite, and people were really respectful for the most part, right? So it was just different. I didn't have that crazy experience. I mean, my girlfriends would like push me to the front of a line if they wanted a good table. Like, that was sort of like, they would go, now we're using you. And they'd push me to the front of the line. And I will say, like, one of the rude awakenings of not being famous anymore was I have to pay for stuff. Like, I was like, I went to New York. I took my son to New York, and I was like, oh, this is what it's like to pay for your own hotel. Because it used to be a work trip. Like, I would take a work trip, and then I would add on a few days. But I was like, oh, wait a minute. What? I was like, this is so different. Like, the crazy thing is, when you're making money, people also give you stuff for free.
Yes.
It's so backwards. It's so backwards.
Is.
It's like I'd like to do that now, but it's not available now.
Yeah. And that's funny, because that's true. Because I have a buddy that's super famous, and we went on a couple of trips. And I remember he came with me to Hawaii, and I remember walking on the street, and I really got a sense of it because we traveled. It's the first time we're traveling.
Yeah.
We were staying at my house in Hawaii, and we're walking down the street, and he's bombarded. Just mass people. And the way he had his own way of grabbing their phone, taking a selfie, grabbing their phone, and keep moving. But it was like you said, people felt like they knew him, you know, because of social media.
Yeah.
You know, it was very different, you know. But it's become a part of his life.
Yeah.
And I guess it's kind of, you know, here, I guess what's also I'm fascinated by is like the idea of, was it ever, because with your resume, like I said, it changed my whole thought of how we're going to have this conversation today.
You're going to be nicer to me now?
Very much. Yeah. I'm always nice.
You are.
But the idea that did it ever become like a job? where you go, this is like a fucking job, you know, like, because it seemed like you just worked like crazy. You know, there was like no breathing room almost when I look at your resume. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
or did you still love like, hey man, I'm on Melrose Place. This is awesome. It's my dream job. I'm an actor. I'm doing what I love. You know what I mean? Or was there that?
Well, it's always a mix, right? Everything's a mixed bag. So I love being a part of something. Like, I'm not someone who was like, I want to be on a new thing all the time. I like to be home, so I liked having a job and a crew I knew.
Yeah.
But the hours were insane. Like Melrose Place, we did 32 episodes a year.
Wow.
That's an insane, like you could, like now you're lucky to get 8, right? So we did 32 episodes a year. And so it was insane amounts of work. And twice a year we'd do double up. So we'd shoot 2 episodes at once so we could get that many episodes and still get a break for the summer. So for 6 weeks, you'd be shooting, we shot 6 episodes in a month. So for 3 episodes in a row, we were doing 2 episodes at once. It's hard to imagine.
Wow.
So it was exhausting. By the end of the season, you were exhausted, and it's fun, and you're with your friends, and we were having photo shoots on weekends. So I guess the thing about when it was more, I remember the intensity, like same with Allie. There was a lot of intensity that I don't miss. I don't miss the weekend photo shoots and I don't miss that at all.
Yeah.
And there was a time like when it first hit, and it's a very weird thing because when you're recognizable, when you look up, people are looking at you. So, you know, when you walk into a restaurant, everybody's doing their thing.
Right.
If you're recognizable, you look up, everyone's looking at you. So I started walking with my head down. I would always wear a hat. That's part of why you see people who are famous in hats all the time. You don't have to do that anymore. You wear your hat on. And then I remember I was with a boyfriend, and I was like avoiding. He said, they just want a connection. And I was like, what? He goes, they're just looking for connection. And somehow I heard it. And then I would, if I saw someone staring at me, I would just put out my hand and say, hi, I'm Courtney.
Right.
And it changed everything because it's true. It's like you're sort of being chased. If you it's almost like in a dream, if you turn around and face what's chasing you.
Yeah.
I would turn and say, hi, I'm Courtney. And say, hi, I'm so-and-so. And I would say, how are you? And they would say, great. And then I'd say, I like her. And so, thank you so much. And then it's done.
Yeah.
It was such a huge epiphany for me. So that changed everything. And then I would start the conversation. Right? You put your hand out. You're like, when I was in baby group with my son, and it was kind of awkward with the other women because I was still recognizable. And then I just thought I would raise my hand and talk first and say something.
Wow.
What we learned to do, right? Say something personal, embarrassing, like tell my truth. And then all of a sudden that illusion shatters and you're 2 people because they go, oh, me too.
Yes.
Right? Oh, me too. I have that too.
Yes. That's the thing. Yeah. It takes all the power away if you just confront it and walk through it, right?
Yeah, that's why your friend's
nothing...
like, taking the phone, let me do a picture. Do you want a picture?
Yeah.
Because people are uncomfortable, especially like the kinder and more thoughtful they are, the more uncomfortable they are. They don't want to intrude. So then you have that awkward sort of standoff where you're really, so if you just turn around, again, super not an issue anymore. But when it was, that helped a lot.
Which is funny too, because I like to talk about acting. I love it. And then I remember going back to the theater, the Ruskin Theater. And I said, I want to go back and start all over again and get rid of all my bad habits. And I was by far, and I went through this intensive 2-year program there, which was so great, right? And I was the oldest one in there by far, right? And when you get older, you go, for me, I go, I'm running out of time. I don't give a shit. I'm going to do whatever I want to do in here. I don't care what anybody thinks. Plus, like you said, with what we've learned, I could say through sobriety, you kind of go, I go, no, man, I don't care what anybody thinks about me. I'm not here to save my face. I'm here to save my ass. And I remember a lot of the younger actors going, wow, you weren't even afraid to, no, I don't have time to be afraid,
Yeah.
And did you find because I like to talk about the auditioning process too. For me, it's like I used to be, when I was young, I was afraid because I was always trying to guess what the director wanted or the producers wanted and try and figure it out instead of going in, with what I've prepared and just having a good time and not worrying about the results. Did you have any things like that you went through as a young actor, where you struggled or didn't struggle?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think I worked as much as I did as a young woman because I was different. like I wore t-shirts and jeans, and I was a 17-year-old kid, like from Northern
Right.
California. I liked to act, but I didn't have the thing. So there were a couple of times when I was young that I would try to dress like I could walk in and remember those tight black dresses everyone wore? So everybody these tight black dresses
Yeah.
and heels. And every time I did that, I would stop working because I wasn't being authentic. So I was like,
Wow.
oh, whenever I tried to, and this is the great thing, life lesson, right? Whenever I tried to be the thing that was marketable, likable, lovable,
Yeah.
it ended because we respond to authenticity, right?
Yeah.
So I really believe I worked as much as I did because it was just sort of a breath of fresh air to have this actual kid come in, right?
Yeah.
Like just saying, hi, what are we
Right.
doing? Like, I don't know. I think it was actually refreshing. That's my guess. Because when we stopped going in the room, like you remember when we'd go in to be a half an hour,
Yeah.
you would sit and chat for 10 minutes.
Right.
Then you'd work on the scene for 10 minutes. Then you'd chat for 10 minutes and then leave.
Yeah.
Like, it was so different. I don't know what it's going to do to the art of acting that people do these pre-tapes. It's so strange.
Yeah.
Also, you're watching yourself and editing and watching
Yeah.
yourself. There's not that moment of how'd it go? Felt good.
Yeah.
Right? That's why I said, like, I knew if it felt good or not. I didn't know how it looked because I wasn't looking at myself.
Yeah. Which is funny too, because I remember I had this experience, at the Ruskin Theater, which was like, somebody gave me permission. It was one of I think it was Michael, this teacher Michael over there. He would substitute for us, for John sometimes. And I remember, I was just talking about this with somebody. I remember doing this scene for class, and I felt, like inside, like I felt the scene, like I go, like when I was done, I go, oh, I fucking kicked ass. That was it, right? You know what I mean? Because I felt it. And Michael goes, what are you doing? And I go, what? He goes, that was terrible, right? And I go, why? I go, dude, I fucking felt it. He goes, whatever you felt is not what transpired. That's not what we saw, right?
Oh my God.
And so then he had me gave me notes, and we're going through the scene again. And I got really mad, right? And I had a temper tantrum. I cleared this desk. I was just so frustrated, right? Because he was just hammering me. And then I ended the scene by me getting mad and swiping this table clean. He goes, brilliant.
Yeah, there it is.
And I go, brilliant? I go, what's so brilliant? I go, it was shit, Michael. It was total shit. He goes, no, dude. I go, I didn't feel it at all. I go, I was totally acting. He goes, sometimes we're just acting. He goes, we're actors. And he said, and he told me, he goes, and there's parts, he goes, where you're going through, and he goes, and you're not in it, and you're not going to feel it. And he goes, and you act your way through until you feel it again. And I go, oh, that's right. That's, he goes, because what we saw was very different from what you felt.
Interesting.
And it was almost like he gave me permission to sort of let go and just go, who cares, And like you're talking about, hi, like you just said that. When you said that right now, when you just go, hi, that was so genuine and easy.
I was acting.
It was fucking fantastic. But you know what I mean? It was great. It was like genuine and real. Hi. But it was, that's I think that we get so caught up in all these, what people think, and in life. And if we could talk about, I'd love to talk about, you and I have the same sobriety date almost.
Yeah, almost. I'm May 11, 91.
I'm April 16th, 91. Wow. We're the same class.
Wow.
Right?
How were those 3 weeks? Were they nice? Did I miss the best 3 weeks of sobriety?
Oh, I'm giving away the secret to long-term sobriety. I'll give it to you. You got to wait a few weeks, though.
Exactly.
No, but how did that come about, transpire?
I drank a lot.
Right. When did that start?
Well, it's interesting. I think it's actually tied to what we're talking about, which is, I think part of my drinking was I thought I was supposed to be someone else. Like, I think my parents were both really outgoing and I was really shy and introverted. And I thought there was something wrong with me. And drinking allowed me to be outgoing, allowed me to be the person I thought I was supposed to be like, so it's not that I don't like people. I'm introvert.
Yeah.
I'm slow to warm up. Like I don't
Right.
just come out, hey, I don't come out of the gate like that, which again,
Yeah.
I think is why I worked as an actor, because there's so many people who come into the room and they're tap dancing.
Yeah.
And I was just like shy. And then we'd warm up and do the scene.
Which I think is harder, though. I think it's harder for, don't you think so, than the people that come in and can tap dance? It seems like that anyway. It seemed hard for me because I was more like you.
Life, yes. Because I'm introverted, life seems easier for extroverts.
Mm-hmm.
However, like I also have that great gift of loving time alone, and I have really deep, long-term friendships. So if I can make it through the first 20 minutes of a party, I can usually have a great conversation with somebody. I just have to like make it through that first 20 minutes when I don't remember how to talk. But once I'm through that, like I actually make some actual authentic connections. So it seems easier in the short term, but I don't know. I would hate to feel like I couldn't spend time alone.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think that would be hard. If I feel like I always needed somebody around to be having a good time, that would be hard for me.
And
you have
a brother?
I have a sister.
A sister. What's the age difference?
She's 2.5 years older.
Oh, wow. Close.
Yeah.
And then when did your drinking start? Was that before acting or?
No, I started drinking when I was 15, and it was at a party, not surprisingly. And I'd somehow got invited to parties. I don't know how, because I never talked. I don't know how I ever got invited to a party. Somebody must have thought I was someone else. And I was at this party, and somebody handed me a beer, and I was so shy, and I was so uncomfortable, and it was a warm beer, and I guzzled it.
Oh, yeah.
Like, talk about, like, genetic predisposition. I guzzled it, and, like, my body was like, beer, yum. Yeah. And then it was like everything was different, and I felt smart, and I felt funny, and I felt pretty, and I felt comfortable, and people were saying, oh, my God, I didn't even know you talked. Oh, my God, you're funny. Like, all of a sudden, I was this, like, fantasy version of myself with alcohol. And I was like, well, this is so much better than how I normally feel. I should do this all the time.
Yes.
I remember that thought. I remember, even as I was throwing up all over my boyfriend's sink and bathroom, I was like, be that as it may, what I know is that I need to do this again. How do I get more of that feeling? That feeling okay in the world. How do I get more of that?
And then what happened? So then you were 17, and then you get these jobs.
Well, I was 15.
Was it on right away?
I was 15, and that's when I started drinking. And then I went from being a total goody two-shoes to going home with my friends and drinking at lunch and drinking. Like, it really became the thing I based my life around. But then the thing that actually kept it at bay for a long time was I took my acting very seriously. So the theater company, I took it very seriously. So if I was in a play or rehearsing, I didn't drink. I never drank on stage.
Wow.
Really, I think that, that teacher, Dan, he was so great at teaching us professionalism that it would never have occurred to me until it did, of course, later.
Yeah,
but at that age, it would never occur to me. So it probably helped to keep the addiction at bay for a while. Yeah. Because I had this thing that was so important. Like, if I hadn't had acting and the theater company, it probably would have gotten bad a lot sooner than it did.
When did it get bad?
Well, I got sober when I was 23.
So young.
So
That's good, especially
young.
for then, right? My wife got sober at 20.
Wow.
Which is weird.
Yeah.
Kind of, to me.
Well, I think when people say so young, they sort of project their own 23-year-old on it, right? So my 23-year-old was a full-blown alcoholic. So my 23-year-old, right? Like, my 23-year-old was, oh, let me try this thing. You say it's alcohol? That wasn't my 23-year-old, right? Like, my 23-year-old had pancreatitis. Like, my 23-year-old was really, really sick. So I was done. I was tired. I was done. And I'm just lucky that I got sober and stayed sober, right? Like, the longer I'm sober, I don't take it more for granted. I'm more in awe of it. We both just had a birthday. And I just, like, my prayer and meditation in the morning was just, thank you, thank you, thank you. Because I'm just, it's that moment of God's grace. Like, you're given two options. You stay in this world, or you go through this weird door into sobriety. Mm-hmm. And I'm just so lucky that I went through that door, and it made sense to me, and I made friends, and I stayed. Yeah. Right? Like, that's just a miracle. There were so many opportunities to leave.
I thought my life was over. You know,
Yes.
Because I was the
Yes.
kind of guy that was going to jail all the time, and I was that guy, right?
Yeah.
And I thought, like, okay, fuck. I go, this is it. I've had to go because of drunk drivings and the alcohol, drug classes, and all that shit. And I wasn't ready, you know. So when you're forced to go, you go think this is your life. So you have no idea. Like you said, you walk
Yeah.
through that door and there's friends.
Yeah.
And to me, I look at it like with us, and you go, that's when my adventure started.
Yeah.
That's when it started.
Yeah.
And every day I wake up, it's a new adventure. That's kind of how I see
Yeah.
it, you know? And I think,
Yeah.
so if you were 23, you said?
Mm-hmm.
23, which is actually awesome because you've got this full-blown budding career at 23, right?
Yeah.
And so now you've got this whole other life, which for me, I look at it and getting sober was like helped me to become a man and become responsible. And, you know, the simplest things like making my bed, you know, brushing my teeth. Now I've started to get these tools. And like you said, you had these friends that did the sobriety play into helping you get further into your career, you know?
Well, one of the reasons I was afraid I was going to lose my career.
Oh,
Like it
wow.
was like I was showing up at auditions drunk.
Oh,
I was,
really?
Yeah, it was really it was impacting my work in really negative ways. Well, you remember, you know, at the end when you're trying to quit on your own and it's like, oh, I'm not going to do that again, and then you're doing that again, and I'm going to stop. I have an audition coming up, so I'm for sure going to start 3 days before. Well, 2 days before. Well, I'll just have a little hair of the dog to calm my nerves before I go.
Yes.
Right? Like it's just. The what ifs keep happening and happening. So it was really spinning out of control. It was actually my agent who called me and said, I think you've been drinking too much.
Really?
Yes.
What did that feel like?
It felt scary, but also like a relief. And I thought, good. And I actually said to him, good. You know what? I think so too. You think so too. So we'll just stop. It'll be easy. I really thought it'd be easy. And I did. I stopped on my own. I stopped for like 30 days and I felt great, but then the same thing happened right then.
Yeah.
So I was on an airplane and somebody offered me a drink and I was like, sure, I can drink now because I haven't had a drink in 30 days,
Yeah.
right? Like I didn't know. And then I was right back down and then I went, oh, this could really be a problem. But it was fear of losing it. You know, you have to have something you're afraid of losing in order to get sober at all.
Yeah.
Right? And that
Yeah.
happens to some people and you see it and they've lost so much that it's almost like there's nothing to call them back because they've lost all of it.
Yeah.
They're like, why quit drinking? Because
Right.
I've lost it all. And that is devastating. But I still had this career I really wanted to save. And I'm just like, again, so much of it's timing because today, any of the things I did would have been all over social media. Like,
Right.
I was able to do it quietly, even when, so I got sober a year to the day before I started Melrose Place. The first day of shooting Melrose Place was my first year sobriety birthday.
Wow. Perfect.
Isn't that crazy? Like, talk about God's timing.
So you had a year to get your shit sort of
I had
like your
a
foundation.
year to solidify and get it together so that even when we were shooting 15 hours a day, I still knew where my priorities were, right? I
Right.
still knew.
So you had that ingrained in you.
I
Going
already
in, yeah.
had it. So that feels like, wow, that's God's timing. And then my character became an alcoholic. And it's so funny. So we just watched that episode. So it was the end of the first, I didn't know where it was the end of the first season. We just watched that episode where Allison's drunk. And you know how like for so many actors, they play drunk and you kind of don't buy it. Like you're like, oh, I don't buy it. Like I'm watching like, that's the best scene I've ever done. I was so much better as a drunk than I was as a sober person. Like you're like, I like drunk Allison. Like she's
so
a lot better.
awesome.
It was so funny. I was like, I am actually better as drunk Allison. It was so
That's so
funny
great,
to
'cause
see.
I remember that.
know. It was so much better. But so I was playing drunk
Wait, you want any
Allison
coffee?
and then no, I've got tea
Okay.
right here. Do I look like I'm nodding off?
No, I was just gonna have some. I don't want to be rude.
Super rude anyway. So at the time, like it got out that I was sober somehow, as things do.
Oh, it did?
And they called my publicist and they said, we happen to know that Courtney's sober and we want to talk to her about this, about her part on Melrose Place. This is how different it was then. So my publicist called me and said, People Magazine wants to do a story about you and being an alcoholic and that you're sober.
Wow.
Yes. And I said, I don't want to do that because anonymity, and I was pretty new, and I thought it felt scary, and I didn't want to act like an expert because I knew I was an expert, and I didn't want to put it out there. And I said, I don't want to. And he said, okay. And I said, what are you going to do? He said, I'm just going to tell him. He basically called them and said, I don't know anything about it, and she's not going to comment. And they didn't do the story.
Wow.
How different that
Oh,
was.
yeah.
How
and you'd
different
think they'd be
that
like, who cares? Like today's
Well, it would
world.
have been on TMZ. Like the second they got a whiff of it, they would say, maybe.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
blind item, maybe.
That's all it would have been. It would have been everywhere.
And it was, he said no, and they said, all right. I mean, it was just like,
Yeah.
how does that happen?
Do you think that...
There was some respect for it at that time. There was
That's what I was
some
gonna say.
respect at that time. That's gone. But at that time, there was some respect that they weren't going to out me.
And do you think that there was respect at the time, but do you also think, like, at that time, would that have damaged your career, or would there have been more, like, I think today, in today's world, everybody seems to be, like, struggling with drugs and alcohol, or else we're just aware of it because of social media, right? Do you think it's more forgiving today if you're an alcoholic and you have problems with drugs, or back then?
It wasn't about being ashamed. I didn't want to use it to my benefit.
No, I know that.
I didn't want to cheapen my sobriety by using it as a way to get, like, you saw people saying, like, oh, I'm 3 days sober, and then the next weekend they'd be partying.
Right.
So I knew what I'd been taught was, we don't talk about it because you don't want to then be caught drinking and it looks like people can't stay sober. So I really, it came, and maybe it honestly may be why they didn't run with it, because it came from such a clean place in me. Like, it really wasn't ego, it was the opposite.
Right.
It was saying, no, I'm not in a position to talk about it. Now I talk about it because honestly, I don't know how to talk about my life or myself without my sobriety, because I've been sober for 34 years. Like, I owe so much to my sobriety. I don't know how to have a conversation without it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, why am I who I am? Well, I got sober at 23.
That's kind of funny because, you know, my sponsor, I was talking about my sponsor, Ted, and Sean, it was my buddy Sean too. And he died with 54 years of sobriety, right? And he always said the same thing. He was going, you know, we don't talk about it because, you know, if you're out there and then you get loaded after you're out running around bragging you're sober, it looks like it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And that's not the case. But like you said, even when I was trying to put together this show, right? You're doing all these episodes and you're trying to find your way. Like, what is it? I love film and all that. I love to talk about that. But then I realized, like, my whole life, like you said, is I didn't want to be Ted when I got sober. Even I love Ted. I go, I am not going to be some fucking old guy hanging around, you know, when my whole life is about sobriety. And it's so funny.
Cut to.
Right. That's who I am, you know? And I don't, you know what? And it's given me everything.
Yeah.
I mean, everything. So if I can somehow, you know, talk about it with gratitude and how wonderful my life is, and I get to have people like you in my life, it's like I'm all for it, you know? I mean, that's, to me, like you said, I can't not talk about it, you know? It's who I am.
Well, I asked you when you asked me to do this, I said, how do you address it? And you said, well, we're sort of non-specific. We talk about our experience with sobriety and recovery in a general way. I was like, oh, yeah, right. Well, that you can do, right? And I've thought about this a long time, because I thought about writing or what I want to do, because it has given me so much. And I thought, that's a great way to think about it, which is, I own my experience. Yeah. I'm not an expert. I'm not pretending to be an expert. I'm not telling anyone what to do, but I do get to share my own experience with people because it's my life.
And that's what that's what I love about when I met you and started to get to know you. I'd hear you talk, I'd go, man, God, that's why I was like, I got to get Courtney on this podcast, you know? And it's true, because there's something, I have a passion. There's nothing that moves me more than sobriety, you know? And without that, I wouldn't have anything. My awesome son and my wife, you know, who I met in recovery, which is a joke, you know, like 30 years ago. I always tell the story. there was a convention in Palm Springs, and I was 2 years sober. He goes, we're going to go to this thing. I go, dude, I'm not going. I go, this is bullshit. How boring. I go in the desert in the summer. It's 114 degrees. I go, what are we doing down there? And he told me, he goes, it's going to be fun. I go, I'm not going. He goes, you don't understand. And I go, okay, tell me. He goes, there's chicks everywhere, all over the poolside in bikinis, right? And I was like, really?
You're like, chicks?
Yeah.
Chicks, you say?
He goes, I swear on my sobriety, dude. And I go, all right, let's go. I didn't believe him. I thought it was bullshit. And we went down there, and it's a perfect example. I always tell that story because that's where I met my wife.
Oh.
I went down there looking for chicks in bikinis.
And you found one.
I found one. And it's all because I got out of my own way.
Oh.
I got out of my own way,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, you know, it's funny because Mary G, who you know,
Yeah.
she and I always have this joke where the more definite we are, the more wrong we are. Like when you said, I'm not, like we always, if we start a sentence with one thing I know, it's like, now you know you're wrong. Because it's always true, right? And I've really come to realize, it's one of the things I've really been working on lately, or looking at, like, I'm always wrong.
Yeah.
I'm always wrong. If I think it's going to be bad, it's good. If I think it's going to be great, it's bad. Like, why? The question is, the insanity is, why do I ever think I'm right? Like, why do I live in anything except surrender? Because I am never, ever right.
Right.
This will be awful. It's fun. This will be great. It's awful. Like, why do I think I ever know?
You know, it's funny. I remember I was at a meeting, and I don't know, maybe I had like a year, maybe close to 2 years. And I walked in, and I had the answers for everything. I knew everything. I knew how things should be run and this and that. And, you know, we were at a meeting, and I remember telling Sean, I go, this place is boring, right? And he goes, what's so boring about it? And I go, you know what they need? I go, we need to have a DJ in here. A DJ on Friday night, we get this place popping, right? And he goes, you know what? You don't know anything. And I remember this guy asked me that same day, he asked me some question about, like, do you know where such and such is or something like that? And I remember clearly saying, I don't know. And it's the first time I ever heard myself say, I don't know. I mean, that I can ever remember. You know what I mean? I'm a guy that, you know, I have basically a 9th grade education. I got kicked out of school in 10th grade, and that was the end, right? But I knew everything. You know, I knew everything about anything. And I remember saying that and hearing myself say that, and it was so freeing.
Yeah.
To not know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I go, yeah. I said it again to him. I go, yeah. I go, I don't know. I go, wow, this is amazing. To not have to have the answer. It takes so much pressure off, you know? And then I could follow along, you know? Maybe I'm able to pick up a nugget from our conversation today. If I'm open, you know, I might hear something, which I already have, you know?
Yeah. I say to people all the time, when people have like invasive people in their lives, you ask them questions that they don't want to answer or won't stop. They go, what do you say? What do I say? You say you don't know. But I do know. I said, let them think you're stupid. Like they'll think, I don't care.
Right.
Like, how's your son? I don't know. You don't know? I don't know. I don't know. He didn't tell me. I don't know.
That's great.
Right? Like, let them think I'm stupid. I'm still not going to give information, right? It's like when you get that. The other thing that's speaking in the same vein is I've been realizing, like, the longer I'm sober, the less I say. Like, you know, Piper has this great thing, wait, why am I talking?
Oh, I like that.
And 9 times out of 10, if I wait, if I don't say it right away, like I realize, oh, I'm so glad I didn't say it. Right? Like so often I go, oh, I was so afraid because I was so, you know, I felt so put down for being shy that then I started talking a lot, and I was like, I talk less and less unless I'm having an actual conversation. I just allow myself to sit there.
What is it again? What is it? Wait.
You can't even hear it. it's wait.
Wait.
Why am I talking?
Wait. Why am I talking? That's good, right?
Yeah.
Wait. Why am I talking?
Yeah. And if you just sit, and so fascinating how often I'm so relieved I didn't say the thing I wanted to say or voice the opinion I had.
Right.
Right? Like so often I'm like, oh, I'm so glad I didn't say that judgment or something. Like, I'm so glad I was quiet.
What do you do? So you've got 2 boys?
I have 1 boy.
1 boy. Mm-hmm. How old?
17.
17. Mm-hmm. What's that like with raising a kid and
amazing. I mean, I got to be present. I got to enjoy it. I'm so incredibly grateful. I got to be a sober mom, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
and the best thing I think about being a sober mom is that I have such a full, rich life of my own that he never, ever had to take care of me, right? Like, I have a group of girlfriends that have come over for dinner every Tuesday night since before he was born. So it's like he saw my friends. He sees me busy and active and engaged and living a meaningful, purposeful life. I think it's just great. Like I was able to see, it gave me this perspective, like as he grew up and became more independent, I was like, oh, he's getting more independent and I better go. Like that's when I started going back to school. Like when he started closing the door to his playroom, I was like, oh, I better take a class because I don't want him to be there with his friend going, we have to play with my mom. She just sits out there. Like I was like, like I knew I had that perspective to go, oh, he's putting up a boundary. I better get a hobby. Like, right?
What's he like? What's he like?
He's great. Like, again, I don't want to talk too much about him, but he's great, funny, smart. I'm completely objective, first of all, but like he's a young man.
Yeah, it's amazing, right?
Isn't it crazy when you look at them when
young
they're
man.
a boy? I know.
27 almost. September would be 27.
And then they're a man. We had this, one of my girlfriends had the moms over, and when the boys entered 7th grade, I had all the moms over, so we'd all get, because, in middle school, the parents dropping off and picking up, and you're sort of like, you don't, so I wanted us all to know each other, so she did it when they finished junior high, and I was looking at these boys who had been 7th grade together, like these scrawny kids in the pool, and now they're these lovely young men.
Oh,
and it really is the blink of an eye, right?
Yeah.
And it goes faster.
Right.
Like I always say, the first year felt like 7 years.
Yeah.
But every year thereafter has been fast. Like how did another year go by? Because he's so independent.
And every year I found with him and with my wife, and I always say that every year was better than the next.
Yes.
We'd always go, oh, it can't be better than that year.
Yes.
And it is. Because it's different. It's constantly changing and maturing and growing, and he's navigating life, and you're kind of going along pretty much for the ride. I just, with him, I went along for the ride.
Yeah.
But so then you went back to school, though. You found this hobby that you said.
Yes.
But it's not a hobby.
Yes. Well, it is for me, because they're going to say, what do you want to do with your degree? I'm like, put it on my wall. Like, I don't like, I'm like they send me things like jobs in computer programming. I'm like, you're adorable. No, thank you. I'm here because I love it, first of all. And it was always sort of something that bothered me that I didn't have, because I'm really well read, and I thought it didn't make sense to me that I hadn't gone to college, right? And I will say, when I was younger, like when I was 19, 20, 21, no, thank you. In my early 20s, it came up a lot. Like, where'd you go to school? It doesn't come up very much anymore.
No, not in my crowd.
At our age, it doesn't really come up.
And not in our group, our group.
Not in our group. Yeah. No, we're scrappy, street smart people. Yeah.
Nobody ever asked me if I went to college. I can't even think of it ever when somebody's ever asked me about what school I went to.
Yes. Well, it came up a lot as a young woman, and I felt a lot of shame around it. And I was trying to figure out what to do. And I started taking extension classes, and then I tried one school, and then I found this really great school, Penn, in case anyone knows, Penn LPS Online. They have extraordinary teachers and great classes. And
what were the classes you were taking? Like, what did you start?
Well, I've always wanted to write. I've always written. I've always written.
What, because you wrote a book?
Novel. I did a published novel. And I just finished another one that I think this time I'm going to self-publish. But
wow. What's the name?
The world is so different now. For now, the new one is called Perfect. So
we'll
see if it's that when it comes out. The first one, I don't like the title because I had a terrible experience with publishing, and they changed the title from Kill the Good Girl, which was a great title, to Outside In, which doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. Like, what does it mean? I'm like, I don't know because they made me change the name. And I tried, like, I was such a people pleaser. I'm like, yeah, I can kind of get it. Like, she changed from the outside in. Like, I'm trying to made the stupidest cover. Like, it was such a brutal experience, which is why I want to self-publish this time.
Do you like the book that you wrote?
Well, the experience was so bad that it colored how I feel about the book. So my plan for myself is to pick it up and read it again. I just got the rights back, so I'm gonna now that I'm doing the self-publishing thing, I can re-release it.
Can we get it on Amazon somewhere?
No, because it didn't it didn't do great out of the gate, so they just drop it. It was like
Wow.
it was such a brutal experience. It
That's
was such a
terrible.
brutal experience that I stopped writing for 15 years.
Wow.
I also had a baby, but I stopped writing for 15 years. So I started going back to school, and I just, without even being conscious, I just veered into the writing program, and I
Wow.
took all of their writing classes, like boom, 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 like 7 or 8 writing classes in a row. And then I stopped for a year or 2 years and wrote another novel. So now I finished that novel. I'm doing a rewrite, and I'm going back to school again.
This is great.
It is great. No, I'm super happy, and I feel super lucky that I found such an extraordinary program. And it's hard and it's fun, and I feel like I'm making new brain cells. I hope it will protect me from dementia because it's hard.
That's
I
what they
keep
say.
saying to my son, I have to take one more math class. I'm like, I have to take it before you go to college. Like I have to, any math I'm going to take. He came into me when I was taking the first math class I took was math is all around us, and it's sort of math for creative people. And I was doing this sort of math where you're creating shapes, and Jack goes, that's not math, that's connect the dots. And I was like, well, it's my math, and it is, but you're right, it's also connect. I don't know what it was, but it was like a lot of very creative math. I loved it. But the next one I have to take is real math, so I need to do it while he's still here.
So did you get your degree?
No, I'm limping along because I have this great full life. So I'm taking one class at a time, and it's enough. Like it really is. It takes up enough of my day because I have a lot of other things I do.
What about acting?
know?
Are you anything in the future or?
I would say I'm open to acting. I did a TV movie last year. It was super fun to do because I had such a light heart about it. Like we were talking about like being young and being so serious. It comes up a lot on the Melrose podcast, which is we're having so much fun meeting each other and interviewing each other and talking to our old castmates because we're all so much lighter now.
Yeah.
Like we were in our early 20s and it was super insecure and we were working on weekends and we were so intense. And now it's just like, hi, how
There's
are
the
you?
hi.
How are your kids? But it really is this
Yeah.
sort of, people don't tell you that because there's so much anti-aging stuff. There's so much, you don't want to get old. They don't tell you that if you're doing any of the work on yourself, you get happier and lighter and more joyful. Like I am roughly 1,000 times happier now than I was in my 20s. Like I have so much more joy in my life.
Yeah.
Don't you find?
Oh,
for
yeah,
me,
I
I'm
mean,
immeasurably happier now.
How do you? I love to ask this question. I have a couple questions too. I don't want to forget, but from audience members. But what is it that? What's your secret to staying in this happy place of gratitude? Like, what is that? What do you do?
Well, look, I'm not always here, but I will
Right,
say, like, say before I got sober, I was unhappy like 70% of the time, then happy when I was drunk. So,
Crying.
I was hungover, crying, picking fights, or I was drunk. So that was sort of like that. So now, I mean, it's the work you put in every day, right? I pray and meditate every day. I have
What's that
in-depth
like? 'Cause
conversations.
I like to find out what people's different prayer and meditation look like.
Yeah, so meditation was hard for me to start. I started by paying to learn. I used to pay to learn TM. You probably still I paid $1,000. That's
Oh,
how much
wow.
disposable income I had at the time. I paid $1,000 to learn to meditate, which, what? Anyway, I did, and I remembered. And so it was hard for me to sit for 20 minutes, and it was really hard to try to turn my brain off, and it was really efforted. And what I try to tell people is they're trying really hard to learn meditation is that it doesn't always feel that way.
Yeah.
That now I close my eyes and I feel like I'm spending time with God.
Yeah.
Like I just close my eyes and I feel spaciousness and light, and it's prayer and meditation. So often my mantra will just be thank you. Like I'm just in gratitude.
Yeah.
If I'm in pain, it'll be help me.
I love
it
that
really is
spaciousness
about-
and light that you said.
Yeah, it really
image
is
of
about,
that.
and I can't be there all the time, but it really sets up my day. I come at my day from a different place, which is, I don't know. Like we were talking about, I don't know. Like, I don't know. Like I always tell people who ask me, how do I handle this situation? I always say, go in with curiosity. Like, you don't know. You've made a decision in your mind. You've told yourself a story, and then you're reacting to the story. This is going to be great. This is going to be awful. If you go, I don't know.
Go in with
It
curiosity.
changes the entire situation.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
That's a great little tidbit right there.
It is a great little tidbit, but I think it's hard to do if you don't, like, one of the things I like to say about meditation is, people go, I can't meditate because my mind is too busy. And I just go, well, your mind is too busy because you don't meditate. So
Yeah.
when you close your eyes and that din is what's always happening, what's always cooking. My friend, Dancy, I don't know if you know him, but he says this great thing. He says, I like to think of my brain as any other organ. Like my heart is always pumping. I don't pay attention to that. My liver is always doing whatever the hell my liver does. But he goes, my brain is creating thoughts all the time. And I listen to them, not remembering that's just my brain's job.
Yeah.
My brain just creates thought. I don't have to listen to them. But what meditation does for me, and I think for a lot of people who do it regularly, is it gives me that moment's pause between my brain saying, go to the dry cleaner. And I go, hold on.
Right.
I hear you. Like, it's like having a toddler. My brain is like a toddler, right?
Yeah.
Tugging on my skirt all the time. Go to the dry cleaner. Worry about this. Think about that. Pay that. Get it. And I just go, okay, sweetie, we're not doing that right now.
Right.
We're not doing that right now. We're going to be here with Nick, and we're going to just sit here and have a conversation. We don't have to do that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's a gift meditation has given me.
That's
And
awesome.
a regular practice. So I think it's great if you can find your time, like mine is 20 minutes. And if I'm having like a hard day or a hard time, I just do it more. Like my first thing now, if I'm sad or upset, or I just wake up one of those days when I just feel bad, right? Like I have bad days. Just I up my meditation, and at some point in the day, at some time when I've closed my eyes and I'm like, God, I give it to you, please help me. At some point it lifts and the light comes back in. I go, okay.
I always think that for me, I know after all this time, it's like we were talking about old timers and stuff like my sponsor Ted, and I know I look at him now because he used to say all these things, kind of like what you're saying, and I used to go, that's fucking bullshit. God, this old guy, what's he talking about? And now I look at him now, and I look back, and you go, you have 34 years of evidence.
Yes.
34 years of evidence.
Yes.
And he had that, and I didn't understand that. So he would tell me these things like what you're telling me, and I would be like, it can't be. Why? And you had to have that blind faith because of the evidence. And now we have that evidence that it works. And I know now that I can get to that place of gratitude. I can do it. It's up to me. I have to change my perception. And there's certain things I must do to get there. Sometimes this works, sometimes that works. But I know it can be done.
Yeah.
And meditation's one. Being of service is probably the number one thing for me, because it's like we were talking about, I don't know, which is also, if I know, it's like it's my ego's getting in the way. And I have to get my ego out of the way before I can, my ears open and I can hear these great little tidbits that you told me, you know?
Well, I always think I've come to really believe that my alcoholism uses my ego. So it's my alcoholism will hold on to, I'm different, I don't belong, I'm better than, I'm worse than. If it can convince me that I'm separate and they don't like me, and either I matter more or they matter more, and I'm like, it's that separation, right? Connection is the opposite of addiction. And it wants to cull me from the herd so it can tap me on the shoulder and say, they don't love you, you may as well have a drink.
Yeah.
Right? So you got to stay in the middle of the herd and stay connected, answer the phone, talk to people. It's all of a piece, but that's what I'm talking about, like a life of purpose and meaning. I took this class, one of the classes I took at Penn was positive psychology. And it was so interesting because what this man did who started it is he looked at traditional therapy and said, wow, so it looks like talking about your problems all the time maybe doesn't make you feel better. Like maybe we should rethink it. So he went at it another way and he said, what are happy people doing? Mm-hmm. And it was spirituality, purpose, meaning, service, connection. Like it was all the things that we've learned. It was all the things we're talking about. So it's like, do the things that make you feel better and you will feel better. Don't talk about how bad you feel all the time.
Oh, yeah.
It is like, that's the spin. And if you go too deep down the spin, you spin right down the toilet, right? Like you have to, there are these things we know, and it's all about feeling connected to yourself, to God, to your fellows, to a dog, right? Like on some hard days, I'm just holding the damn snoring pug, and that's what gets me through the hard day. Right. But yeah.
Remember Al S?
He's huge.
Al S?
Uh-huh.
I remember Al telling me, I on the show. Everybody's always quoting Al at some point, but I remember Al telling me, and I was struggling, right, with meditation. And then I was even struggling with so much anger, right? This is a long time ago. And then he said, he goes, it's your choice, man. He goes, it's your choice. I go, what's my choice? He goes, it's your choice. He goes, you're a funny guy. He goes, your mind is like the Cineplex Odeon. He goes, the mega theater. And he goes, there's all these theaters. And he goes, and you always choose to walk into where the horror movie's playing. He goes, you're a funny guy. He goes, go next door to where the comedy's playing. That's where you want to live. He goes, it's as simple as you getting up out of your seat, walking out and going in, walking in next door. He goes, that's that simple.
Yeah.
And he's right, Yeah. It's really up to me to find a way to get back to that. And like we said, I know how to get there, and there's certain things I can do. But it's a choice,
We have more control over that than we think we do.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we really do.
So let me ask you a couple questions.
Great.
How much time we got, fellas?
We're at 160 minutes right now.
Oh, perfect. Okay. I like to do this. This is fun. Oh, where's my glasses? Oh, man. Oh, they're in my pocket. Here we go. All right.
Nice.
Okay, so this question is from Jumpsuit Pictures. What made you want to become an actor?
I honestly think that that acting teacher used to say, none of you are here because you got enough attention as children. Like that's what he used to say to the class. So I think I was such a 70s kid, 70s latchkey kids. Like people were busy. We kind of raised ourselves. And I think that I wanted to be seen, but I was too shy to step out. And saying somebody else's lines and being on a stage felt close enough to being seen. Like now I know that this is what I wanted, right? Like I wanted authentic connection, but it was sort of like, I didn't believe I could have this. So that was like close as I could get, which was playing a character and having them get some attention. Now there was a lot of like work that had to be done to sort of undo that because it doesn't work, which is again why you see a lot of actors like getting into trouble with drugs and alcohol because like this was supposed to heal me. Yeah. And I feel more separate and more distance. It actually did the opposite, right? It separated me. So I think that's why.
Great. I never heard that. That's great. This is from Mike Kaufman, Exposed. How was it working with Lyndon Ashby on Melrose Place?
Must be a friend of Lyndon's. We didn't get to work together very much, but he's a lovely guy.
Yeah.
But we didn't have scenes together.
I've got one. How about Rob Estes?
Oh, he's a doll.
He was my best friend in junior high school.
He's a doll. Really?
Yes.
Oh, the sweetest guy. We just had him on our podcast.
You did?
What a lovely guy. Yeah.
He's the best.
Yeah.
He's
such a great guy.
Did you had plenty of scenes with him, right?
I did, and he was also friends with one of my boyfriends at the time. So we actually spent time away from there, and he's just always lovely, funny, smart. Like I've never seen him have a bad day, be cranky, be mean or rude to anybody.
It's so funny. I had this thing, we have these moments in our lives. You go, I should have went right instead of left. And I remember being at Uncle John's. You remember Uncle John's on Wilshire? Mm-mm. This is in the 80s. And I was just probably like 83 or something like that, maybe 84. And I went in there and I'm hammered drunk. And I'm drinking beers with my buddy. They used to have these big fishbowl beers. And Robbie, that's how I know him. Robbie came up and he was the waiter. And I hadn't talked to him in a while because he had graduated. Right? He went on to USC and stuff. And he was just so sweet, right? Well, we were best friends in junior high. And I go, what are you doing, man? He goes, oh, man. He goes, I'm in this play. He goes, I'm an actor. And I remember going, fuck. Like I knew Robbie was an actor and I was an imposter. Oh. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
He was like, he knew what he wanted to do. You could see it in his eyes. He was clear about the path he was going to take. And I remember having this moment where I was embarrassed with that beer because I knew that was my path and it was too late for me to get on. Wow. You know what I mean? I never forget that. And it was just something so simple. I've seen him a couple times since, But he's a fantastic guy.
Yeah, he is.
Right? Let's see what else we got.
Most people are. Like my experience is most people are like the bad seeds are very rare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Okay, then this. Oh, I have a question. How about working with Jamie Lee Curtis? You've worked with her on Anything But Love, right? Do you remember that?
Was that the series? The series
Yeah.
she did?
You had one episode on there.
Boy, that's so funny.
Right? Looks like
That's
you didn't even know you were on
funny.
that.
Well, because I had all my scenes with Richard Lewis.
Okay. Which
A
is
friend
great.
of mine wrote on it, Janice Hirsch, she wrote on it. So they hired me to do it. It's so funny. I didn't, because I know Jamie now. And I think it's so funny because her presence is so strong now that I had forgotten that.
Wow.
Yeah, it's interesting because when
Wow.
you really know somebody,
Yeah.
you don't like, where do I know them from? It's like I know her in my actual, that's so interesting. Yes, we did.
Yeah.
We did. I'm sure she was lovely.
Well, she's friends with
And
my
she's
mom.
even better now. So I don't know. She's incredible now.
Yeah.
Boy.
Yeah, she's
what
a powerhouse.
boy, is she
right?
fun to watch in anything now.
I mean, talk about a resurgence. I mean, just kicking ass.
Kicking ass. I love seeing her work. I love seeing her work now. Just incredible.
And then I've got, I was wondering, and Jim has, I know Jim has a question too, but I was wondering, is there anybody that you want to work with that you haven't gotten to work with? Director, actor?
Oh, everybody. Like I just
Like who would be your, like, if you could work with any director,
You know who?
who
Well,
would it be? What kind of film?
Probably a comedy. That would be fun.
'Cause
You
you're
know what? I
funny.
would say director
Yeah.
and actor and writer Emma Thompson. I love
Oh.
Emma Thompson so much. I
Yeah.
just think
Good
she's
choice.
such an extraordinary woman, and
Yeah.
I look at her and I go, "That's who I want to be when I grow up." I just
Awesome.
think she's extraordinary.
Do you have any interest in directing?
No,
No.
no, I like to write.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. So if you had something that you were writing, would you want to direct your own or not really?
I like to write fiction because then I never have to leave my house. I like to be home. It's
Right.
very nice.
What about you, Jim?
Actually, no, it's very similar to Nick's question. If you could, looking back, if you could go back and work on any project again, or a group of people, is like tomorrow, who would?
That's it.
Good
It's
question.
funny because it's interesting. So it's not what you would expect. Like, there were brilliant actors on Alec McBeal. Melrose Place was so popular. The thing I had the most fun on, bar none, was Revenge of the Nerds 2, Nerds in Paradise.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
It was,
That's
well,
so-
two things. First of all, we shot it in
So
Fort
great.
Lauderdale during spring break. And I was 19, I think.
Oh my God.
So I got to have that spring break experience with those
totally.
guys, and it's a heartbreak because they rushed it. We shot it in like March and April, and it was out in July. So they just rushed it out because it was the funniest thing I've ever seen.
Oh.
Could not get through a scene without laughing. That was our biggest struggle. They were so insanely funny, and they loved each other so much. It was such a joyous
That is
set to be a part of.
great.
That's great.
So, and I really wish the movie reflected how funny it was.
Right.
Because, and I think if they'd had more time, if they hadn't just like rushed it out because they expected to make money, it was like, I wish they could re-edit it. Like I want to re-edit my first novel. I wish they had the film somewhere and they could re-edit it to show what I experienced because it was incredible.
That's right. Because you were, how old did you just say you were?
I think I was like 19.
What a treat. I didn't even think
Yeah.
about that. You're working on
Yeah,
that.
it was so
How
young.
fun. You're 19. That would be a blast.
Yeah.
It couldn't be any better. Because to me, comedy is like, I mean, that's, for me, that's my bread and butter. That's where I like to live, So
Well,
that
and
would be
sometimes
a
you can be on
blast.
comedies, people are very serious about the comedy, but they were just enjoying each other.
Oh,
they were just
yeah.
having a ball.
And usually that's where
They
the
were so
magic
sweet to me.
comes. When you're on set, and if Jim and I would say, if we're laughing, man, this is going to be a killer scene.
Yes.
Usually if we're laughing, genuinely laughing, it's going to be funny.
Yeah, it should have been so much better than it. I'm sure the raw material is there
Yeah.
to cut together a movie that reflects how much fun we had filming it.
Wow. Well, that was fantastic.
So fun.
I'm so happy that you came. This has been such a treat for me. I've had the best time.
So
I've
fun.
learned a ton. You've given me great nuggets and insight. I just love having you. I love seeing you, and just I don't know. I'm just stoked on this episode. Thank you so much, Courtney.
Thank you. It was so much fun.
You're the best.
So fun. Thank you, guys.
Aloha.